Hello dearest friends, welcome back to my channel. If you've never been here, my name is Diana from Diana and the Book Hunt, and today I'm going to talk about all the books that I managed to finish in the first part of June. It's already getting to the summer period, so there's a lot of summary reads on here. There's also a lot of books that feature queer characters because it's Pride Month. I have a couple of new releases. Some of them were great, some of them were disappointing to say the least. So without further ado, let me just go ahead and jump into the books because I've got 10 books to mention here and I've got some thoughts. The first book that I read in June is by Alison. It's her latest release. It's called Here We Go Again, and this book is a sapphic romance that features two heroines who, when they were teenagers, they were best friends, but then something happened between them and it caused them to become rivals. Now, fast forward to present day, they're already, I think, in their late 20s or beginning of 30s, and they live again in the same small town together. Both of them have become teachers and they teach at the same school, and they still cannot stand each other. Now, what ties them together is the fact that they still have a very warm and loving relationship with their former high school teacher, who unfortunately is dealing with some health issues. He really wants them to go on a road trip together. He kind of guilt trips them into going, and they go even though they cannot stand each other. So this definitely is a summary romance because it occurs during the summer holiday for the teachers. It is also a road trip romance. It is very emotional, I do have to say that, because there is talk about grief, about health struggles, about also past trauma for both of the heroines. There is some emotional notes within this book. It also has a lot of funny moments when they go on this road trip, a lot of found family aspects within the book, and definitely a very well-built romance that is a true rivals to lovers situation. So yeah, I really love this one. I gave it 5 stars and I would definitely recommend it. Next up, I read The Guncle Abroad by Stephen Rowley. I actually read The Guncle, I think 2 months ago, and I really fell in love with that story. I'm going to link up in the cards my wrap up for that video so you can check out my thoughts on that one. I gave that one 5 stars. This one essentially follows the same main character, Patrick, who is gay, and he is now, fast forward a couple of years later, in a situation where his brother is getting married. He's tasked again with taking care of his brother's kids while his brother and his bride-to-be are going about arranging the wedding and stuff. So essentially we have again a situation of them coming together like in the first book. The kids have different sets of problems than when they were younger, and Patrick needs to figure out how to approach those difficult situations with them. And also he has come out of a long-term relationship with someone he loved very much, and he's struggling with how he's going to proceed with his love life essentially. So yeah, there's a lot of goodness within this book as well as the first one. I did give this one 4 stars because just the first one had more impact on me, but this one was definitely an enjoyable read, definitely a summary read as well, with the destination wedding and them being in different countries because they're essentially also road tripping, but not with a car. They're Euro tripping through different countries, and it's just a great read. I really liked it. I gave it 4 stars. The next book I'm going to talk about is another summary read. It's Babymoon or Bust by Ava Hunter. This book features the surprise and secret pregnancy trope, but I think it's done in a tasteful way because what we have here is the hero and heroine who have this one-night hookup and they decide not to exchange names. So essentially the heroine, when she learns that she's pregnant, she doesn't know how to get in touch with the hero, so she's not really keeping it a secret because she wants to, but because she doesn't really have any other choice. Now, fortunately for the hero, the heroine is an interior designer and she gets this very big job where she gets a spread, like an interview on TV, and he sees that segment, he sees that she's pregnant and he sees her name, so he tracks her down essentially. Now when he tracks her down, her best friend decides to set them up and send them on this Babymoon together so that they can figure out how they're going to proceed with their relationship and taking care of the baby, essentially because they're very much long distance. She's in LA and he's in Alaska, so they need to figure their shit out. So this one was fun but quite predictable and at moments quite corny, if I can say it like that. So for me, it was an enjoyable read, but I didn't give it more than 3 stars because essentially I think it's not very memorable. So yeah, it is a quick, fun summary read if you just want to have like a palate cleanser. But yeah, it was just nothing too special. And now I'm going to talk about, unfortunately, one of the new releases that was a disappointment to me. It's Leather and Lark by Brynne Weaver. Everyone was hyping up the first book within the series, Butcher and Blackbird. I was a little underwhelmed with that one already because it just had such a huge hype around it. It's a dark romantic comedy series. Both of the books are. The first one more so than this one. But yeah, I just had high hopes for this one that I would enjoy it more because I thought that the 2 characters within this book would be more to my taste. But I have to say that this one, I was almost snoozing through the first 50% of the book, and I was really seriously contemplating DNFing this book at the 50% mark, but I really decided to stick with it and see whether it's going to improve. It really did improve after the 50% mark, so I decided to give this one 3 stars. Had it not improved, I probably would have given it a 2-star rating. But yeah, it was just not my cup of tea, honestly. I don't know if I told you what the book is about, but essentially we've got one of the brothers of the hero from the first book. His name is Lachlan, and then we've got the heroine who is the best friend of the heroine from the first book. Her name is Lark. So we've got Lachlan and Lark, who are the love interests within this book. Essentially, both of them are killing off people for different reasons. He is an assassin. He doesn't want to be an assassin. He wants to retire, but because a job for him went bad, his boss is not going to let him retire. Now, for the heroine, she essentially is a secret serial killer, and she is, yeah, I don't know how to say, a bit unhinged, but in a fun way. At least that's how she's presented. And we do find out what both their issues are throughout the book, but I think there's something about this book was just really lagging for me. It was very boring throughout the first 50% of the book. So yeah, it was really definitely a disappointment for me. I gave this one 3 stars. I think I'm going to pick up the third book, like the third brother's book within the series, because we definitely find out that there is this kind of really weird situation going on between him and his heroine, because we do find out that both of them are professing their love for one another, but for some reason they cannot be together. So that is kind of intriguing. But at the same time, seeing that both the first book and the second book were kind of underwhelming for me, I am kind of keeping my fingers crossed that the third one will be better. Another summary book that I picked up is Out of Office by A.H. Cunningham. This one was a really interesting read because, again, in the first 50%, I was not sold on the romance, but after the 50% mark, it definitely picked up for me. This one features a heroine, Genevieve, who is working in hospitality, and she's been sent to Panama to scope out a project for the hospitality chain that she works for. And while she's there for a couple of weeks, she has this driver, Adrian, who is showing her out and about all these wonderful places in Panama. She falls in love with the area, she falls in love with the culture and the people, and essentially she also is starting to fall for him because he's definitely a very alluring character. Now, she is very much someone who is a workaholic, very precise in her work, always thinking about how she can progress within her career, while he's more laid back. So there are definitely opposites in that respect. And they strike up a friends with benefits situation while she's there. Now, obviously, when they catch feelings, it becomes a difficult situation because she needs to go back to the States while he has no plan to leave Panama because he has his own business there. So it becomes a difficult situation for them to struggle with on how to get together when they live very far apart. And we've got queer representation within this book. The hero is queer, so there is some kind of a secret keeping situation going on. He doesn't really tell her upfront that he's queer, but at the same time, it gets handled in a very beautiful way in the end. So I was really happy with that. And yeah, this one was an interesting read for me. I gave it 3.5 stars. And now we're moving on to one of my 5-star reads of the month, which is Pas Don't by Chloe Angyal. This is a book that I just highly enjoyed. I don't read very many books that center on dancers, and I really am looking forward to discovering more that are similar to this one because it was just splendidly done. We've got our heroine Heather, who is a principal dancer within the New York Ballet Company. It's a very prestigious role for her, and she's engaged to this guy who is a total douchebag, and he has made her believe that everything that she has achieved in her ballet career is thanks to him. So she's kind of insecure about her own achievements because of him. And at the start of the book, she finds out that he's been cheating on her. So she definitely wants to escape her reality in New York, and she applies for different positions for a couple of months, and she gets one in Sydney, Australia. So she goes to Australia for a couple of months to kind of really get away from her reality and find herself again. And she meets one of the principal dancers of the Sydney Ballet Company, Marcus, who is tasked with showing her around. Now, Marcus has a very difficult predicament of his own because he is in his 30s and he has never had any problems within his career when it comes to any injuries, but unfortunately he had a very bad fall on stage and he cannot dance for a very long time until he recuperates. So both of them have different sets of issues, but when they meet and they start going out and about together, they definitely discover that they are very attracted to one another, as well as that they really can help each other out with their respective issues. So I really felt giddy when I was reading this book. I just wanted to keep on immersing myself into their relationship, into the development of their characters, into how the heroine is going to grow out of those insecurities that she had when the book started, and also how the hero is going to work through his issues, and also how are they going to get together when she needs to move back to New York once her contract is up. Another thing is that this is a forbidden romance because the company that they work for does not allow for any fraternization, so they need to keep their relationship a secret. So there's a lot of goodness within this book. I absolutely adored it and I gave it 5 stars. After this splendid 5-star read, I read another 5-star read, which is a new release that was a pleasant surprise for me. It's Savor by Tarah Dewitt. Now, why this was a surprise while I have read other books by Tarah Dewitt, I kind of fell into a pattern with this author where I give her books 3.5 to 4 stars. All of them are very similar for me, and this one I thought was going to be the same. But I just had a different kind of feeling about this one once I started it. I read the audiobook for it and it was splendidly done. This one features a heroine who lives in this small town. She's absolutely in love with her small town. She's a very sunshiny character. She's a teacher at the school in this small town, and she's going to have the summer holiday. And while she has the summer holiday, she is looking forward to compete in this small town competition that they have every year. She wants to do it to kind of prove to herself that she's over her past, because she has a past relationship with someone who is now getting married to someone else. And the hero in this story is essentially the guardian for his niece, and he is moving just for the summer from this big city to this small town to kind of get away from his career because he's had some issues with his career. He is a professional chef and he desperately needs to prove to himself that he can get back to his old job and kind of work through his issues, specifically his grief and his niece's grief, because his niece has lost her mother, and respectively also he has lost his sister. There are some emotional topics within this book, but I think that just the small town antics really help the hero get past all of his holdbacks, and it was just very wholesomely done. And I think that the heroine was just pushing through all his boundaries and all of his holdbacks and was helping him rediscover his love for cooking as well. I am just a sucker for foodie romances, so this was a definite win for me. I gave this one 5 stars and I would definitely recommend it. Next up, I read a hot and steamy summery novella by Kayla Grosse. It's called Silver Fox. It just released a couple of weeks ago, I think, and it was just a steamy good time. This is an age gap romance, and it's also a father's best friend romance. We've got the hero and heroine who go to this summer house that the heroine's dad owns. Essentially, her mother sends her there thinking that no one is going to be there, and his father sends his best friend thinking that no one is going to be there. So the two of them get together in this house. They immediately have an attraction together. The hero definitely has some holdbacks because he's like, oh, I cannot go there because this is my best friend's daughter. But at the same time, they have this explosive chemistry and they need to figure it out while they're there for the weekend. It was a hot and steamy time. A definite must if you're in the mood for a summery, quick, hot and steamy read. I really enjoyed this one. I gave it 4 stars. Now, next up, I read a new release that is a debut novel by the author Katelyn Doyle. The book is called Just Some Stupid Love Story. This one was very interesting. I can imagine that it's not going to be for everyone, but I definitely enjoyed it. I gave it 4 stars. The book centers on the hero and heroine who went to the same high school together. They actually had a relationship when they were teenagers, and the heroine broke the hero's heart. The heroine is definitely someone who is kind of pessimistic and sarcastic and kind of a grump. So she's presented as not the most likable kind of heroine, but I really did enjoy that about this story. So that's why I think that not everyone will love it, but I really loved it. The hero is a very sunshiny character, and he's definitely gone for the heroine. He still has not recovered from what happened between them, and he still believes that they should be together, essentially. And what happens is they go to their, I think, 15-year reunion, and they get seated at the same table. Now, they are not going to work through their issues already when they meet, but there is definitely this very interesting setup within the plot of the story, which is, while he believes in love and he's like the most he's the most romantic kind of guy who really wants to find his happily ever after, he's actually a divorce lawyer. Well, from her side, the heroine, she is someone who writes rom-coms for a living. So she's supposed to be someone who believes in love, but she is the biggest skeptic when it comes to love. And the two of them strike up a bet where they take a look around them to all the couples that have formed within their class, and they make a bet on whether they're going to make it or not as a couple. And 5 years in, so at their 20th high school reunion, they're going to see who was right and who was wrong. So essentially, are soulmates a thing? Does love really exist, or is it a hoax, basically? So the two of them have this bet, and one of the couples that they bet on is themselves. So I really enjoyed this story. I gave it 4 stars, and I hope you give it a chance. The last book is the latest release by Hazelwood called Not in Love. This one was a definite disappointment for me. I think that it's again one of the least favorite books of Ali's that I have, one of them being Bride, and this one is my least favorite as well, next to Bride. This was a definite disappointment for me, unfortunately. I didn't love it because it's very heavy on this theme. I read through somewhere that Hazelwood had mentioned that this was more leaning towards the erotic romance genre. But again, I don't think that that is her strength. Honestly, we've got another STEMness novel where the heroine works in biochemistry, in the biochemistry field. The hero, he used to work in the same field, but nowadays he has this goal that he wants to take over the company that she works for. He has his reasons for that. So essentially, they're competitors of each other, and they're pitted to have this kind of secret relationship. They actually meet before they find out that they have this setup going on. They meet on this dating app, and they definitely have a chemistry together that they cannot deny, but at the same time, they have this very difficult kind of history between them because of what is going on with their respective careers. So while I did love some things about this book, the fact that it felt a bit different than the other books that I've read that have this STEMness set up, the fact that we still do have the strong support that I feel that Hazelwood wants to give to women in STEM, that I definitely appreciate. And the fact that there was a conflict within how women behave in certain situations within the STEM area, I appreciated that as well. The fact that the hero was obsessed with the heroine, in some moments I loved it, in some moments I didn't, because I found out that in Ali Hazelwood's books, there is this repetition that happens in almost all the books, and it kind of gets really annoying at some point, where the heroine is talking and the hero is interrupting her the whole time saying her name. So the heroine was talking about something and he's like, Rue, 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 like 5 times saying her name, and she just doesn't stop talking, and that kind of gets on my nerves. I don't know what it is, but just some things about the setup of the way that she's writing is starting to get on my nerves a little bit. So yeah, I gave this one 3 stars, and it's definitely not my favorite. So my friends, these were all the reads that I managed to finish in the first part of June. Please let me know if you read any of the books that I mentioned and whether you like them or not, and also let me know what you read in the first part of June. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and I hope to see you in the next one. Have a wonderful, marvelous day. Happy reading. Take care, and bye-bye.